live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us for 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It's a special day for Star Wars fans, Thursday, May the 4th. Thanks for joining us. Going in depth tonight on the ongoing search for a woman who ended up, they believe, in the Weber River earlier this week. We're going out to Brian Malahi in just a moment. Also taking a look at soil moisture levels, how that could impact you around your property. Before we get there, let's take a look at what is making headlines tonight. The Salt Lake City School District has just picked a new superintendent. Elizabeth Grant is her name. She is the new district leader. Coming up in a bit here on 2 News Live, we're going to take a deeper look at her education experience. Also on our website right now, the Weber County Attorney's Office released a video detailing a timeline of events surrounding a shooting at a home in North Ogden last week. From our past reporting, a man showed up at his brother's home and fired gunshots before lighting that home on fire. Also making headlines tonight, Utah political and business leaders are on a trade mission in an active war zone. Senate President Stuart Adams leading a delegation traveling right now in Ukraine. Adams tells 2 News the group is there to do humanitarian work and explore economic opportunities with the Ukraine nation. Also, the Utah Department of Transportation says northbound Legacy Parkway will be closed from Parish Lane in Centerville to Park Lane in Farmington. The closure starts tomorrow night at 10 o'clock through Monday at 5 a.m. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us throughout the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive to join our conversation. You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send us a direct message on any of those platforms to weigh in. Investigators focusing on one part of the Weber River today in the search for Libby Simpson. She's been missing for nearly 72 hours. Brian Malahi is live back in Weber County for us. Another day for you there, Bri. What's going on?
Well, searchers went in the water here, very close to a bridge in the community of Uinta. And we've seen searchers inside, basically been poking at the river bank, poking at the river bottom, trying to see if they may be able to dislodge anything that could point to signs of Libby Simpson. The search now entering into its 4th day. And we understand that a couple of searchers have also been treated for hypothermia here. That happened earlier in the week. They apparently drove themselves to the hospital. Turned out they were okay. But the search now has been exhaustive. And investigators say for some reason they want to focus on this part of the river. They've had people on tethers in the water, and we were the only news station here shooting video as it happened today in Weber County.
Brian, I was out there for the initial search that night. It looks like the same area near that bridge that crosses over from Uinta into that South Weber area, close to that command area. Is that the same spot?
It's the same spot, and it's a place where this area actually is a little downstream from where it's believed that Libby Simpson fell in. She was walking her dogs, and there's been speculation about just how she got in the water. And today, her mother-in-law said, you know, it's still a mystery, that she was walking her dogs. One of the dogs apparently lost a collar. Libby was on the phone to her husband, told him that she was coming back, but she wanted to go back to see if she could retrieve the collar, and it's unknown after that how she fell into the water. So yes, this is an area where the water has surged, but it is moving fast even further west of here. And we spoke to a couple of people on a very tall bridge about a half a mile from here who were spotting today. They have signed up for shifts, they and friends of the family, in order to look from high above. One woman told us today she knew she had to come here because she thought, she had this intuition that she was going to find something. As of today, nothing, unfortunately, from her vantage point.
Brian, just quickly before we let you go, I know you spoke with Libby's father yesterday. Can you reiterate some of the things that he told you?
Well, he talked about his daughter, and he talked about her being a beautiful soul, singing with the angels, with her sister, a very young woman who passed away 6 years ago, and with his mother. He said that she was a massage therapist, had gone to massage therapy school, had done some modeling. She's married. She's happily married. She had it all, according to him. And he wanted people to know her name and her face. So often when we report on these stories, and it's tragic whenever we do, at least initially we report on them as a woman or a person, a man fell into the water. But he wanted people to know that this is his daughter. She has a name, she has a face, and she is a beautiful soul, as he put it yesterday.
Brian Malahy reporting live for us along the Weber River. Second day for you out there, Brian. Thanks for all you're doing for us. And obviously our heart breaks for that family. If you want to see Libby's face, it is the top trending story on our website. So her father's wishes are indeed coming true in that sort, where Libby's face, her identity, it is out there for people to know who she is. Let's show you a live look right now. Utah County, Utah Lake State Park tonight. Just a couple of boats there in the marina. Some ominous clouds. I always love the tilt of this camera for some reason, Chase. It kind of gives you the feel like I got to turn my head, or maybe we should go out there and check out the water. But it just looks, it looks chilly, it looks eerie, but the camera you're going to show behind us, goodness.
It's a little bit colder,
this
right?
Is much
up in
different.
the mountains.
Let's a stark contrast to the nice water there to snow at high elevation there at Solitude.
It's still early May, so folks are like, oh my gosh, it's snowing in the mountains right now. That's pretty common. It's not snowing in the valleys. It's snowing above 8,000 feet. So this is Solitude. We got Honeycomb Canyon right behind you, Brian. The lifts have stopped, but we did see a couple skiers out there. Not very busy, but Solitude is still open, and some of those ski resorts are still open.
So for me, East Coast guy, grew up wanting to ski as long as I could. Of course, things change when you're a dad. But I looked at cameras the other day. I see Alta there. There's so much snow still. They're closed. It's encouraging to know someone's still open. As somebody who loves to see others enjoying the greatest snow on earth.
It's kind of funny. Park City Mountain had a longer season than Alta Resort this year.
That
doesn't happen.
It's weird when you put it in the perspective of the data, too, that you show day in and day out here on 2 News Live of just how much snow they got at the top of Little Cottonwood.
That's right. And they're getting a little bit more, of course, but then we have a little bit of rain to talk about here in the valleys as we head into your weekend. So let's get to that forecast. Again, a little bit of snow in the mountains, a little bit of rain in the valleys. I kind of like this setup that we're having. It's going to keep things nice and green, and really it's not that cold. It's just cooler compared to what we've been dealing with. Remember all those 80s, we kind of went from winter to summer just like that. Now we're going to have some nice spring weather with some spring showers and some spring thunderstorms. Summer's going to come. So let's deal with some nice spring weather, in my opinion. We have a little bit of rain down in southwestern Utah. Not a lot in St. George, but a few showers to your north and to your east. Everything is lifting towards the north. So if you're driving along I-15, you should be okay. But there will be some light rain at times, at least for the next couple hours. Things should be wrapping up, though, after sunset in central and southern Utah. We have some scattered showers across the southern end of the Wasatch Front, Utah and Salt Lake County. They're also lifting towards the north to northwest. Everything is rotating around our area of low pressure, so that's why they're moving a little bit more towards the west. Here in northern Utah, some thunderstorms in Idaho and Nevada right now. So our rain chances are there for tomorrow, but they're lower at 20%. They go back up, though, on Saturday, and they're still there on Sunday and Monday. So we'll go from scattered showers and storms to more isolated showers and storms by early next week. So let's break this down hour by hour. You'll see that the rain will continue here along the Wasatch Front until about 10 or 11 o'clock, but notice south of Provo, we are dry, and we'll stay dry overnight and into tomorrow morning, but we'll have some cloud cover, and then a stray shower storm is possible tomorrow afternoon in northern or central Utah. You'll see that things kind of keep going, though, across far northern Utah, where we'll expect some higher totals Friday night and into Saturday morning, and then more of these hit or miss showers and storms Saturday afternoon across, again, northern and central Utah. Southern Utah, you won't see as many. It's going to be a little gusty out there, and temperatures begin to slowly rebound down in St. George. So additional rainfall through Saturday evening, 1/10 of an inch to a 1/4 inch. However, if you're north of Salt Lake City, we could definitely see some higher totals. And with some of that rain on our snowpack and in some of those canyons, that might elevate our flood risk a bit. But again, the snow melt will slow down. So that's something that we're watching. If you're near some of those rivers and streams north of Salt Lake, all it takes is one heavy thunderstorm dumping a lot of rain might cause some problems. Now, the Ironman down in St. George on Saturday, weather looks nice. For the swim in the 50s, for the bike, 60s for the run later in the day. A little bit warm and windy in the 70s, but overall looks really comfortable for those in that Ironman, which kudos to you. That's pretty impressive. 69 degrees in St. George tomorrow. We're in the 70s over the weekend. 80s Monday, Tuesday. You'll notice stays pretty gusty in southern Utah. Next chance for rain will be Wednesday of next week. Salt Lake, temperature's not really moving very much. We're going to be in the mid to maybe some low 60s through the weekend. Overnight lows in the 40s. And again, we have those scattered showers and storms through Monday. Break on Tuesday, and that's when we climb back into the 70s. Another little storm Wednesday, Thursday, kind of cools things off. A little bit of rain. So really kind of unsettled for the next 7 days, Brian. For the following weekend and the following week, it does look like maybe a big ridge of high pressure settling in with warmer temperatures. So if you're wanting those 80s, they might come back in about, I don't know, maybe 10 days.
We've been unsettled since I moved to Utah about 4 years ago, so this is pretty expected for me.
This is. May is our second wettest month on average, so April, May, getting rain showers. This is very common, and so I like to see this forecast. It's not a terrible forecast because it's not going to be a soaker and it's not raining every single hour of every single day, just these hit or miss showers and storms.
It's a typical Utah roller coaster. It'll look very different next week.
It will.
Thank you, Chase. Remember to download our 2 News weather app to know about changes in your neighborhood. Get updated forecasts, some live radar at the palm of your hand in your phone. The app is free to download. As Utah's snow melts, hydrologists say a lot of water is running into the ground. In many ways, that's normal and good, but if it happens too quickly, as Chase and I talk about quite a bit, it can pose some issues. Daniel Woodruff talked with a hydrologist today to learn more.
Brian, I talked to a hydrologist at the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City. I asked him point blank, how wet are we in our soil across Utah? He said, very. The soil has become very saturated, especially over this warm-up we've had over the last few days. He said that we hadn't really melted a lot of the snow into the ground before now, but when we saw those temperatures hit above 80 degrees, he said a lot of water went right into the ground, saturating that soil at a very high level. Now, what does that mean? It means that when we have periods like that, he says issues can arise, things like landslides or mudslides or flooding, all of which we've covered extensively here on 2 News. I decided to come here to Centerville, which you can see behind me, and I talked to the Public Works Director. He told me they've gotten at least one complaint from someone who was concerned about the soil around their house on the hillside. He's been diligently checking it each week. He feels confident right now that things are okay. The soil is not too wet and there's not going to be a rapid destabilization of the soil. But he suggested for anyone who lives along a hillside or has concerns to just be aware and watch. And if you notice a lot of water pooling somewhere, coming out of something on your yard or near your home, to contact your municipality, your city, or your county, and you can figure out a way to possibly reinforce that soil or take any other steps needed to make sure that there isn't an issue like a landslide or a mudslide or anything like that. This is certainly a concern this year because of all the snow we've gotten, but there is a marked difference between this year and 1983, according to the National Weather Service, and that is that this year we had a lot of dry years preceding this wet year. Back in '83, they had a lot of wet years just before that, which made mudslides and problems like that much worse. So a silver lining there, but either way, be watchful as we have potentially later down the road another warm up and continuing saturation of our soils here in Utah. At least for now, it's cooler than it has been. Back to you.
Well, I know you're not a hydrologist, but we do talk about this quite a bit.
Right.
We talk about soil moisture, we talk about how much snow melt has come off. Typically, I would see your fun graphic and it would change by a sliver, but any progress made over the last few days, or have temperatures kind of held things where they were?
Yeah, I mean, things have not really changed really a whole lot over the last couple days, and of course with the cooler temperatures things will hopefully get a little bit better. But as Daniel's mentioning, that soil moisture though, it might be an issue, especially as we see these showers and thunderstorms. If everything is saturated, makes things a little bit easier for mudslides and for those landslides, especially on those steep slopes like what we saw just yesterday up Little Cottonwood Canyon, or the day before, I believe.
They all blend together.
They all do. We have something going on.
It was cleaned up yesterday and it happened the day before.
Today's been a quiet day,
Yes.
right? But yeah, so something that we'll be watching, you know, again, we're still melting that high elevation snowpack, Brian. You know, for the entire state, we've melted about a third of the snowpack, but up towards Snowbird and that high stuff, we've only melted 3-4%. So that will be coming down later in the month and probably mostly in June.
A place that could look very different here as we take a live look. Provo Canyon, Provo River, of course, you're talking about steep slopes on either side of that canyon. Depending on how much is released sooner rather than later, this area could look very different in the coming weeks.
That's right, but those reservoirs have been so low that, this is actually, it's a blessing because we're going to be filling them up and we don't have, full reservoirs, and then we're like, what do we do with all this water?
Just quickly to piggyback off of that, if you saw our story last night, 10 o'clock, we were up at Deer Creek Reservoir for it, looking at how the water levels will change, how the boat ramps are already in. I can attest, there's still lots of room in that reservoir, so we should be able to fill them up
but it's still
before
coming.
we release.
That's right. Again, we've only melted a third. We still have 2/3 left.
2 News has you covered this spring as our risk for flooding continues. Download our 2 News app for breaking news alerts on issues throughout the state and to see our past stories on ways that you and your family can protect your home and property. Big story for us today. We're following some big news that we broke with you last night. 2 News, KUTV.com. This was also on our digital platforms. Salt Lake City School District just announced Elizabeth Grant is the new superintendent. Now, this happened this afternoon. We had crews there during the announcement within the last hour or so, maybe even the last half hour. Grant has over 36 years of experience in the education field in various positions. She is a former school teacher in Baltimore, Boston, Utah, was principal of now shuttered Lowell Elementary School in the Avenues neighborhood of Salt Lake City. You see part of her resume there on your screen. She worked for U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. In their Head Start division was an education policy advisor to U.S. Senator Patty Murray of Washington, also worked as an education consultant. Of course, a long list of education there herself, a graduate from University of Utah in 1985, also a Stanford and a Harvard partial grad there on the resume. Very impressive. This will be the 4th superintendent in Salt Lake City in the last 4 years. Let's take a look at how we got to today. Dr. Timothy Gadsden was named superintendent February 23rd, 2021. He was the first black superintendent to lead a Utah school district. Now, just over a year later, the school placed Gadsden on administrative leave. That was in July 2022. Gadsden then requested some mediation. That happened September 21st last year. 1 month later, Dr. Timothy Gadsden stepped down. A lot to digest there. We have a lot of those articles on our website right now. Our very own Chris Jones has been covering this for quite some time. You can find all of this on our website, KUTV.com. That'll do it for us. But Chase is here.
I'm back.
We don't want to talk about schools right now.
Brings me back.
I was actually just looking out our window here into downtown as you were doing your forecast. I was thinking to myself, boy, is it that warm out there where people are wearing no sweatshirts or jackets?
It was.
It was.
It was. We were in the mid-70s.
I've been in the building way too long today that I don't even know what temperature.
It's a little bit cooler now, but it was nice and warm as the sun went out. But right now we have a little bit of rain out there, so it is a little bit on the cool side. Don't forget your umbrella. Showers possible until about 10 or 11 o'clock this evening.
For Chase Thomason, I'm Brian Schnee. Our entire crew here, both in front of the camera, behind the scenes. We appreciate them for making 2 News Live a possibility every single day, Monday through Friday at 5:30. We hope you are back with us tomorrow with another edition before we hit the weekend. Have a great night.